When you're waiting for something really important to happen, there is this almost universal human tendency to just stare at the clock.
Oh, absolutely. It's human nature.
Right. Like, think about it. You put something in the microwave and suddenly you are just paralyzed, staring at those red digital numbers counting down from 60.
Or, watching the little typing bubbles when you're waiting for a crucial text message.
Yes, exactly. You're just watching the minutes tick by on your phone screen. It's like we genuinely believe that by simply observing the passage of time, we are somehow in control of the outcome.
Like staring at it makes it happen faster.
Right. Well, welcome to today's deep dive, where we are unpacking the ultimate ticking clock for you today, which is selling your home.
Oh, man. The most stressful clock there is.
It really is. If
Yeah.
you have ever sold a house, or even just browsed listings online, you know exactly what clock I'm talking about. It is that little counter right at the top of the listing.
Oh.
Days on market. Dumb. Exactly. Day 1, day 12, day 45. And it is so incredibly easy to just assume that a home sitting on the market, racking up those days, means something is fundamentally broken.
Yeah, it is the ultimate source of seller anxiety.
Yeah.
Because, we're entirely conditioned to think that faster is always better.
Right, like a quick sale means it's a great house.
Exactly. A house goes up, it gets snatched up in a weekend, and we label that a good house. But if a house sits for 2 months, well, it must be a bad house or a lemon.
But the research we're diving into today basically upends that entire assumption, right?
It completely throws it out the window. Relying on days on market as your primary indicator of success or failure is, well, it's like trying to diagnose a complex medical condition by only looking at a patient's age.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's a data point, sure, but it lacks all the actual physiological context. Days on market doesn't actually tell the story of what is happening between the buyer and the property.
Okay, so if the ticking clock of days on market isn't the right thing to stare at, if that number is just, generating anxiety without giving us an actual diagnosis, where should we be looking?
The research points to a totally different metric.
Right, the hero metric.
Mhm.
The article argues that the only number you should really be sweating is showings. Just the sheer number of times buyers are physically walking through the front door.
Because showings reveal exactly how buyers are responding to a home in real time.
In real time, yeah.
Think about the mechanics of market economics for a second. Days on market is a completely passive metric. It just happens to you.
The sun comes up, the sun goes down.
Exactly, and the number increases. You don't have to do a single thing to accrue days on market. Showings, on the other hand, are an active metric.
Because it requires actual effort from the buyer.
Right. To get a showing, a buyer has to see the listing, find it appealing enough to call their agent, coordinate their schedule, get in their car, and physically show up at the property.
That's a lot of friction.
It is. It represents a tangible, physical action taken by the market in response to what you're selling. So it is a much more vibrant, active story than just passively counting the days a property has existed on a website.
That makes total sense logically, but wait, let me push back on this just a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
So if I'm selling my house and I have like 20 different families tracking mud through my living room over the course of a month, disrupting my life, and none of them write an offer, that feels exponentially worse than nobody coming at all.
It definitely feels worse, yeah.
Right. Doesn't high traffic without a sale just mean you're wasting your time? Like, how do we actually read this engagement data to know what's going wrong?
Okay, that's the perfect question. Because foot traffic is data. Even if they don't buy, they are telling you something highly specific about your product.
I'm trying to think of an analogy here. It's exactly like how we look at metrics on social media.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, days on market is basically a vanity metric. Measuring the success of a house by its days on market is like measuring the success of a video by how long it's been live on your profile.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like, oh, this video's been up for a week. Well, who cares? That doesn't mean anyone actually watched it. Showings are the actual engagement.
Yes. They're the comments, the shares, the saves.
Exactly. So how do we decode that engagement? The article breaks this down into two very distinct scenarios, right?
It does. We decode the market's secret message by looking at the volume of those showings. So the first scenario is when you are getting fewer than one showing per week.
Basically crickets.
Complete crickets. Maybe one person comes through every 10 days. The market is sending a very loud, very clear message here, and that message is exclusively about the price.
Because they aren't even bothering to show up.
Right. Buyers are looking at the listing online, and they're skipping over it before they ever step foot inside.
It's like a bad dating app profile.
Yes, exactly.
You're swiping through, you see someone's profile, and if the upfront cost, whether that's, distance or they have a bio filled with red flags or the vibe just doesn't match, if that initial impression doesn't justify the effort of going on a date, you just swipe left.
You don't give them a chance.
No, you don't say, well, let me go on a 2-hour coffee date just to see if their terrible profile is actually inaccurate. No, you skip them. So buyers are swiping left on the house because the upfront cost doesn't match the digital impression.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And to understand why it happens so fast, we really have to look at the psychology of the modern buyer in the digital age.
Because they have so much data now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
10 or 15 years ago, buyers relied heavily on agents to pull MLS sheets and tell them what was available. Today, buyers have an unprecedented amount of information right in their pockets.
They're scrolling Zillow at 2 a.m.
We all are. And by the time they are seriously looking, they've become hyper-experts on their specific price band. They know exactly what $500,000 buys in their target zip code.
They know the square footage averages what the neighbor's house sold for.
Right, so when a new listing goes live, they make an instantaneous algorithmic value judgment.
They are essentially running a comparative market analysis in their heads in real time.
Precisely. If your asking price is significantly out of alignment with their perceived value of the home based purely on those digital photos and stats, they filter it out.
So the lack of showings isn't just bad luck.
Not at all. It is a direct, calculated rejection of the price point by an educated consumer base.
So in that dating app scenario, the solution isn't to just wait longer and hope someone eventually swipes right.
No, the solution is to change the parameters. In real estate, that means adjusting the price so it aligns with the digital expectation.
Okay, so adjusting the price fixes the digital rejection. The resume is fixed. But what happens when the digital profile works perfectly? They show up and they still don't buy.
Yes. The second scenario.
Because that is the other side of the coin the data highlights, the in-person disconnect. You're getting 5 or 6 showings every single week, a revolving door of potential buyers.
Which is exhausting for the seller.
Totally exhausting. You're constantly packing up the dog, making all the beds, leaving the house for an hour, and 0 offers.
Well, if people are consistently crossing the threshold, the price is attractive enough to get them in the door based on the online presentation. They swiped right.
Right.
The issue is something that only becomes apparent once they bridge the gap between the virtual listing and physical reality. The illusion breaks.
It's the real estate equivalent of being catfished.
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
The data points out a few specific culprits for this, right? It mentions the floor plan, the physical condition of the home, misleading photography, or just how the property compares to local competitors once they actually see it.
Let's dig into the mechanics of that illusion, because it's fascinating. Take misleading photography, for example.
Oh, the wide-angle lenses.
Yes. With modern wide-angle lenses, HDR processing, digital enhancement, a photographer can make a cramped, dark living room look like a bright, cavernous hall.
I've definitely been fooled by those.
We all have. So the buyer sees the photo, accepts the price based on the promise of that spacious room, and schedules a showing. But the moment they walk in, their brain instantly registers the discrepancy.
And trust is broken immediately.
Exactly. They feel deceived. And once trust is broken, they start looking for every other flaw in the house.
Or what about the things you literally cannot photograph, like a weird floor plan?
Oh, floor plans are a huge one.
A house might have 3,000 square feet, which sounds amazing on paper. But if the layout is completely chopped up, or, you have to walk through the primary bedroom to get to the only laundry room, you can't easily convey that awkwardness in a listing description.
Buyer just has to experience it.
Right. Or the smell. Condition isn't just about cracked tiles. It's about how the house feels and smells when you walk in.
Oh, absolutely.
If it smells like wet dog and stale cigarette smoke, the buyer is immediately mentally calculating the cost of ripping out all the carpets and repainting. And suddenly, the house isn't worth the asking price anymore.
And this leads us to the brilliant paradox at the heart of this entire discussion. Let's say we have 2 houses on the same street.
Okay.
House A is experiencing the first scenario. It's overpriced online, so nobody is coming. 0 showings.
Crickets.
Right. Now, House B is experiencing the second scenario. Great price online, tons of foot traffic, but it smells like a wet dog, so nobody is buying.
Right, the in-person disconnect.
Exactly. Both of these wildly different scenarios can result in the exact same days on market number. They could both sit there for 60 days.
Wow. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If both houses hit 60 days on the market, the seller's panic is identical.
Totally identical.
They are both staring at that ticking clock thinking, my house isn't selling, the sky is falling. But the article says they require completely different solutions.
Completely.
So how does a seller avoid fixing the wrong problem? Like if House B, the smelly house, just drops their price by $50,000 without fixing the carpets, they are literally throwing money away. The price wasn't the problem.
So the smell was the problem.
Right. So what do they do when that 60-day panic sets in?
They have to fundamentally shift their mindset from passive waiting to active listening. The best marketing strategy isn't just about putting a home online, planting a sign in the yard, and crossing your fingers while watching the clock.
That's just hoping for a sale.
Right. That is a passive strategy that leaves you entirely at the mercy of time. A successful strategy is about establishing an active feedback loop. You have to ask your agent to aggressively pursue feedback from the buyers who walk through.
So it flips the script. You have to treat every showing as valuable market research.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of viewing a showing that doesn't result in an offer as a failure, you view it as data collection. You are actively researching the market using your own home as the test subject.
That's a great way to look at it. If you are getting feedback from 3 different agents that their buyers felt the kitchen was too cramped, that is actionable data.
Or if the yard is too much maintenance.
Right. It removes the emotion. It isn't a personal rejection of your taste in decor. It's the market speaking to you. And there is a real urgency here. The article points out that it's a race to position.
A race to position, meaning the faster you get it right, the better.
Exactly. The sooner you understand what the market is telling you through this feedback, the sooner you can pivot. You might need to adjust the price, yes. But you might also need to repaint a neon green bedroom or stage the living room differently.
Or just update the listing description to better set expectations before people arrive, right?
Exactly. Fix the resume.
It's like steering a ship. If you just launch it and hope it gets to the destination, you're going to crash. You have to constantly read the currents and adjust the sails.
Adjusting on the fly.
But let's be honest, trying to fix a condition issue while you're actively trying to sell is a nightmare.
It is deeply stressful.
Imagine trying to coordinate a crew to paint your baseboards while keeping the house perfectly spotless for a random 3 p.m. showing.
No one wants to live like that.
The emotional toll of trying to adjust on the fly mid-voyage is massive, which is why the article actually offers a way to avoid a lot of this stress altogether.
Right, which requires looking at the timeline long before the house ever hits the market.
Yeah, the final section of the text is aimed at homeowners who might be months away from moving. The article states that it is quite literally never too early to start planning.
And they draw a very clear correlation here. The homeowners who experience the least stress and who ultimately get the best results are the ones who start the conversation well before they are ready to list.
We tend to think of selling a house as a sudden event. Like you wake up one Tuesday and say, okay, we're ready, let's list it this weekend.
Right, but the logic against doing that is airtight if we tie it back to our discussion about conditions and feedback.
Because you have no time to pivot.
Exactly. If you wait until the week before you want to list to start assessing your home's flaws, you have 0 time to address them. You are stuck with whatever condition the home is currently in.
And you will be forced to let the market penalize you for it financially.
Yep. But if you begin the conversation early, you transition from a reactive state of panic to a proactive state of strategy.
So what does that proactive strategy actually look like? The article lists a few specific things you should be getting curious about early on.
First and foremost, figuring out what the home might actually be worth right now.
Not what an automated algorithm online says it's worth.
No, what a professional looking at your specific street thinks it's worth.
Right. And then second, deciding which improvements are actually worth making. And I feel like this is where people make the most expensive mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
The emotional attachment to the house takes over, and people suddenly think they need to gut renovate their entire kitchen before they sell.
That is a classic mistake driven by a total lack of early guidance. It's a misunderstanding of ROI, or return on investment.
Because the mechanics of home renovation for resale are very counterintuitive.
Very. A homeowner might decide to spend $40,000 putting in a custom top-of-the-line kitchen. They think it will add $40,000 to their asking price.
Dollar for dollar.
Right. But the reality of the market is that buyers in their specific price bracket might have preferred a totally different cabinet style. Or maybe that neighborhood just doesn't support a luxury price point.
So they don't get the money back.
They might only recoup $20,000 of that investment in the final sale price. They just lost $20,000 and suffered through months of construction for nothing.
Wow. So an early strategy session helps you identify the high ROI improvements.
Exactly.
Maybe you don't need new custom cabinets. Maybe the math says you just need to spend $2,000 to paint the existing cabinets white, update the hardware, and I don't know, finally fix that leaky gutter that looks terrible from the curb.
You save massive amounts of time, money, and stress by knowing the difference between what you want and what the market is actually willing to pay for.
Which ties directly into the third key early consideration, understanding what today's market means for your specific localized plans.
Yes, the local context is everything.
The source we are looking at specifically uses the Sarasota market as a case study, and it perfectly illustrates why macro-level news doesn't help you sell a micro-level house.
Because you might turn on the national news and see headlines screaming, "Housing market red hot, zero inventory."
Right, but that's a national average. You can't price your specific house based on a national headline.
Exactly. You have to know the microclimate of your local area. Let's look at that Sarasota example. In that specific market, you might have a situation where single-family homes in certain suburban neighborhoods are just flying off the shelf with multiple offers.
While at the same time, downtown condos are sitting on the market for months.
Right. And why? It could be local changes to HOA regulations, insurance spikes affecting condo buildings, or seasonal shifts in buyer demographics that only impact certain zip codes.
So if you own a condo in Sarasota and you price it based on the national news about single-family homes,
You are going to end up in scenario one, overpriced with zero showings. The local context dictates the entire strategy.
so the overarching ethos here is that the best, most profitable moves do not happen by accident.
They really don't.
They happen with deliberate preparation. Having a pressure-free strategy session 6 months before you feel the pressure of the ticking clock changes the entire game.
It's a fascinating paradigm shift. It takes you from being a passive observer of time, just letting the clock tick, to being an active interpreter of data.
So, to bring this all together for you listening today, if there is one core takeaway from this deep dive into real estate strategy, it is this. Do not let the ticking clock of days on market blind you to the real story.
It's just going to give you an ulcer.
Exactly. Instead, focus your energy on the actual active feedback of showings. Understand the difference between a price problem where nobody is coming and a condition problem where everybody is coming but nobody is buying.
Treat every single person who walks through your door as valuable market research.
Yes. And above all, give yourself the gift of time by preparing months in advance so that you don't end up having to fix the wrong problem while living in a fishbowl.
You know, it honestly makes you wonder about the broader applications of this mindset.
Oh, how so?
Well, what other areas in your life are you currently measuring by the sheer amount of time you've spent waiting, when you should really be paying attention to the actual feedback you're getting from the environment around you?
Oh, wow. That is absolutely a thought to chew on. Are you just staring at the microwave counting down, or are you actually checking to see if the food is cooked?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this gave you some incredibly valuable tools, not just for navigating the real estate market, but for how you measure success and interpret the feedback in front of you. Until next time, stop staring at the clock and start looking at the data. Take care, everyone.